Welcome back to the Djellab YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me today, he's back from his holiday. He graced Portugal with his presence, and he has since returned to give it back to us. Patrick Van Straten, how are you doing?
I'm good. What an introduction. Honestly, I don't know if you can top that for you today, Henry. Yeah, it's lovely to be here. It's good to see you guys again. I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about today.
Football,
yeah.
Indeed.
It's got a very improvisational vibe, like this episode.
Arguably, always the best ones are. Henry Hill, Henners, my man, how are you doing? People loving the haircut at the moment.
Yeah, it's divided opinion on the channel. I told everyone that that Pat had been fired last week. People enjoyed that.
That's fine.
But yeah,
I love the idea that people think that I'm employing Pat.
I was right about Thomas Frank. He is an A-list manager. That is correct. And I was right about Gary O'Neill. He's absolute crap. So get him in D. But no,
Pep does do that though when he absolutely smashed the team. Although he didn't do that with Brentford. He just go like, oh, what a guy.
I can't believe we let Ten Hag just live in A as easily as we did.
We didn't. He didn't go A. No, he was like, I think he was still like B. I was very willing to put him lower.
One of my sad things about Pat coming back is it means I get kicked off the thumbnail. So, and you've been
I'll happily sacrifice the thumbnail to you.
The things you've been doing to my green jumper on that thumbnail, Zach, you've made me look like some kind of mutant.
Part of the X-Men. X-Men.
Anyway, all good. Let's talk about football.
Indeed, let's do it. Firstly, guys, if you are not subscribed, I know over 50% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed to the YouTube channel. Please do so. It helps me out massively, and I would greatly appreciate it. And also, just before we start talking about the football, we need to give this show a name. Obviously, cannot be calling it a certain vibes, but I do think we should come up with another one, and I want you guys at home to help me with that. So please get in the comments below and let me know what kind of idea you are thinking about.
Sunday energy.
Sunday energy on a Friday, indeed. The weekend begins. Anyway, let's move on. You guys at home will have better ideas, I'm pretty sure. But let's move on with it. As you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about a few teams who are struggling so far this season or have a couple of issues that need to be fixed, and we are going to try and do that and speak about them. So first off, the biggest problem that Spurs are facing this season is, and I actually think there might be a few of them. It's quite interesting how the Spurs fan base is reacting at the moment. We are filming this the day after they just narrowly beat Coventry 2-1 after originally going 1-0 down. Johnson scoring the winner in the end, and then kind of looking quite sad about it. Bless him, after things that have happened recently.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. I tweeted during the North London derby. I said, being honest, do we really think Brennan Johnson's a top 4 player? I'm just not sure about it. And someone tweeted back to me saying, "Oh, you're spreading hate, you're spreading negativity." And I sort of thought about it. I was like, did I A, need to say that, but B, is it unfair to say someone's not a top 4 player? Like, it's not his fault that he's not, like...
He's good enough to play in the best football league in the world. He just might not be a Champions League level player.
It was difficult, because some of the comments were like pylons and people just saying, he's shit, he's crappy. And I was like, well, that's not really what I was saying. I was just saying, like, do I really think that he's able to push Spurs to that next level? So it's an interesting moment for me to think about that as a voice. But I will say, the problem for Spurs, and like, if you look at their transfer business, a lot of money spent, have they really got the kind of firepower to take this squad to the next level? And I don't think so. I mean, my point being, their substitutions, they're so limited in what they can do off the bench because they've bought a load of youngsters who, again, it's like, when do Tottenham really want to win things? Is it now or is it in 4 years' time? Because Archie Gray, great, the young Swedish...
Odeberg.
These are all nice signings, and they're probably ahead of the trend. They probably paid good money for these guys that could go on to be worth a lot of money. But right now, is this team genuinely capable of this second season trophy win, which Postecoglu is talking about? And I don't think it is, because against Arsenal, when they run out of options and they turn to the bench, Odeberg, like, don't get me wrong, good, but he was playing... He's not got the caliber, I think, to take on the very big teams right now. And if Brennan Johnson's confidence is as low as it is right now, that's a big loss. Like, they're not... Richarlison, I'm not sure, like, his confidence sky high at the moment too. So I just think that Postecoglu doesn't have enough options on the bench to really make a difference against the top sides. I think they'll be able to beat the worst teams just by the nature of how they play, by the pressure that they apply. Solanke will score goals. You know, the difference is, if they beat Leicester in that opening game, I think it's a lot more positive. They've just had a difficult run of results now, and they're suddenly, like, you're looking at conceding goals from set pieces when we know you've got to be better at that. They've got the defence to win stuff right now. I just wonder why Spurs haven't got in some bigger names throughout the rest of the side to really chase some big results.
I think it's a mixture of both, though, right? I think half their plan is the idea of we want to sign players who are easily capable enough now. Like Archie Gray, we talked about him yesterday as a youngster, but he showed last season in the Championship he was a quality player that can be playing football now if needed. Like part of my,
he is insanely young.
He is insanely.
I know what you mean.
Young.
It's not but Henry's not saying that you can't use these guys now. He's saying that they are not ready to propel you into the top four or into serious contention for titles in the way that a 21, 22-year-old version of that.
But do you not think they kind of have done throughout the last 2 transfer windows, which Ange has been in charge of, or been there for? I'm trying to think who's the. Oh no, he's gone, isn't he? The Italian guy. They have brought in a mixture of both, though. Like James Maddison was 26 when he joined. Solanke's 27 now that he's joined. Van der Ven is I think early 20s.
You're talking about starters. I'm talking about bench options. I'm talking about ability to come off the bench and change games. And this is where I don't think all these youngsters have the ability to do that necessarily.
I've got less of an issue with that. Like, I think it's okay for your players off the bench to be young because I think if they were academy players, we wouldn't really worry about it. I don't really mind spending the money on them. Like you've got to bring.
I don't have an issue spending the money on them.
But it isn't entirely joined up. Yeah, as in like getting in Solanke is like a win now thing that you've done. And you've got a bunch of players here who are good, like Solanke, like Maddison, to some degree Son, though I also think that's not. That's another area where the thinking hasn't been entirely joined up. Yeah. Richarlison, like Romero, all these guys are over 25. And by the time somebody like Gray is probably ready to be like really, really good for you, those guys are 30 or past. Yeah. And then
there's a few transfer windows in between.
Yeah, but then you've got to change over all those positions. Like, if these, I'm totally fine with the signings they made, but if they wanted to win a trophy now, then they should have gone for slightly more established players.
Yes.
And if they want to build for the future, then they probably shouldn't have gone and got 27-year-old Solanke. They should have been like, right, okay, we're going to go and get like Brian Brobby or something like that. You know, like a young player. They were interested in Santiago Jimenez earlier in the summer. Yeah. He's like 23. That would have made much more sense because then you'd have said, when he's 27, all these guys are 22, 23. Somebody like Udogie is still 25, 26. Like it makes sense with everybody kind of peaking together. Whereas now what you've got is a bunch of guys who, when they peak, a load of guys will have fallen off.
Well, that's it.
Are they not an issue though right now, where essentially because it's been so long, right, and they've had this kind of issue, I guess, with the fans where they are saying we want a trophy. That's why we got Mourinho in. That's why we got Conte in. That didn't work out. Okay, we've gone kind of back to our old roots. We're trying to play nice football now. They're struggling kind of to create good quality chances and finish them. But that's kind of another discussion point. Are they not in a place now where they're always going to have this thing on their back where people are going to say, you need to win a trophy now. You need to win a trophy now, whatever happens. And even if they build a squad that is young, all the media, all the attention, all the fan base is going to be saying is, okay, but when's this trophy going to come? That's why it shocked me, say, against Coventry. Why play a squad that is kind of half the first team, half the kind of young guys, we're giving a couple of first team appearances here and there, when you should go all out in the League Cup? Go all out for it.
I think that makes sense given that, like, so right now they're what, 13th?
Yes, in the league, like roughly. Yeah,
but like they're clearly better than that. However, I don't think they're top 4 quality. Like a load of their underlying numbers are really impressive, but I think they're probably like, sixth, around sixth, plus minus like a couple of places.
Yeah.
But I would be shocked if they came fourth. That's totally fine. But the thing is, it's really hard to build a team. Given that, I suppose it might make sense to say, let's throw all our resources at a cup and try and win it. However, when you're building in the window, I think that's totally different. Like allocating your resources within season to try and win a cup makes sense to me. But trying to conduct your transfer window with an eye on winning a cup, I think is a terrible idea. There's too much randomness. Like you might just not win it just because that's how it goes. You get a bad run, somebody gets injured at the wrong time. So I think the best thing to do is build the best squad you can, and that will increase your chances of winning trophies. Like, whereas the idea of like, oh, we've got to go and get a 27-year-old striker because that might help us win a trophy. Like, to be honest with you, I find that a bit of a dead end. I think it'd be far better to say we are going to build a really good squad, and in 2 or 3 years we will compete for trophies every year. I don't have an issue with them signing Solanke, and to be honest with you, this is all a bit kind of like
over. It's so blown over. Yeah,
but it's kind of off topic because like the biggest issue they have right now is defensive transition.
Yeah, they can't.
That is the issue.
Do you think people
they
have
don't
figured
have a
out-
proper defensive midfielder? They get played through too easily. Their defenders are having to do too much defending. Their front line presses hard, but not terribly effectively. Like, I love Heung-min Son. He's been an incredible player for them. He's been a great servant.
Don't
for
play him on the
them.
left anymore.
If you play him wide, he needs to be able to run and defend more than he can. And also, there are knock-on effects of this. So John McKenzie did a really good thread about how in the Arsenal game, Arsenal didn't really bother doubling up on wingers in the way people normally do now because the one-on-one threat just isn't there from Johnson and Son.
Yeah.
That means that Arsenal had extra bodies and they were able to launch counter-attacks more effectively. Well, if you have wingers who are a bit faster and who can press a bit more directly, then you have more of a defensive capability from your front, but also you're gonna force teams to do stuff they don't want to do when they're defending you. Which so I don't know. There'll be a double benefit there. So from that point of view, I think Odobert is like a really good signing for them to have.
No, that is pretty damning that Arteta has clearly just said in a pre-meeting, my fullbacks will beat their wingers, and that's fine. I'm not even worried about it. Like, you are empowered to be just like, you are better than them. That's not a problem like that. For Spurs, that is pretty shocking.
But I think there's an element now as well because Ange is so like hell bent on keeping this not one style, but like having this high line, which everyone now knows he does. Like that, it was clear halfway through last season that this is how Spurs are going to play their football. That people can kind of realise quite quickly, okay, play him on the break.
This is what I was saying.
Everybody has a high line. Like Liverpool and Arsenal and City have a high line. Like it's not just
Spurs,
a high. It's not just
yeah.
having a high line is fine. Like, but if they'd added like a real like ground-eating DM this summer, or maybe Bergvall will kind of turn into that.
This is what I was saying last week. Like, how can we consider Postecoglu one of the best 5 managers in the league when he's refusing to coach a competent defence? Like, that's just not true. You got in the Scottish league, sure, that's fine. He could probably go to France, be very successful. There are many other divisions he could be very successful because he'll be able to blow away some of the smaller teams. But right now, with the quality at the top end of the Premier League, as Pat said, like, there's just so many problems with the way that Tottenham play, and they're just relying too much on being able to destroy teams up front. Don't have enough at the back.
How do you feel about Maddison now? Because last season he started
exactly
the
who
league.
he's always been.
But last season he started the league electric, and people actually I remember myself complimenting him in this like a system where it allowed him to pick up the ball off of the defence and drive forward and kind of play where he wanted. Whereas now it seems almost like that's actually being a little bit more of a hindrance to the way Spurs are playing now.
How so?
I saw against Arsenal he was called out majorly.
I don't know.
I saw we've seen this season he hasn't really been that like
He's
considering
got a handful of assists already.
Considering the games that they've played so far this season, they've lost obviously to Newcastle in a game where they create a lot of chances, but not necessarily clear-cut chances.
They could have won that
They lost to Arsenal. They drew to Leicester, but I actually think in that second half, Leicester could have ended up winning that game. It could have gone either way. The only team they've beaten so far is an Everton side, who we'll get on to later on. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of their games come up when they can play like the likes of Brentford and so on and so forth. Brighton too.
If they'd drawn, though, those Newcastle and Arsenal games, which is totally possible, like the Arsenal game on actual chances created was extremely even.
Yeah.
Like, now, I think that Arsenal's game plan works better than Spurs did. Arsenal never really looked uncomfortable with anything about the way the game was being played, which to me is like a sign of that team's tactical plan working. But like, if they got draws out of both those games, like, it wouldn't have been unwarranted on the numbers.
Sure.
And then I think the narrative would be kind of different about them. Like, yeah, they got cut through a couple of times. You know, you think about Martinelli basically running free into the box in that game, but like, that happens to Arsenal as well. It happens to City as well. Like, City have actually given up quite a lot of attacks like that this season. So I don't know. It just seems to me like it's 4 games and we're extrapolating a lot from it. Like, what I would want to see from Ange is the ability to like coordinate the press a little bit better so teams can't play through it quite so easily.
Yeah.
But it's not entirely his fault that like the squad maybe needed a couple of things this summer and they didn't go out and get those things. I don't think he's driving that.
Is he getting a little bit snappier?
Yes.
Like, I don't know whether it's helping. But
Yeah, it's not,
obviously,
it's never a good
obviously,
sign.
it is factual. He has won a trophy in every second year every club he's been at, of course. But I think like in the moment, it's like just don't say that.
Do you know what his problem is? When he was in a hot moment, when he was doing really well, when he at the start of last season,
he was all happy-go-lucky.
Like everyone wanted to interview him.
I interviewed him. He was lovely. He was great.
He was doing all of these interviews. Oh mate, you know it's amazing. And like all fine, but I remember thinking this isn't going to be happy forever for you. because it's just the nature of.
Remember,
Spurs,
end
it's the
of
nature Premier
September,
League.
they were like celebrating because they were top of the league.
And he, at the end of the day, it's all coming back to bite him. All this pile on of positivity, because suddenly people are going, "Oh, wait a minute, you're really cool, and we thought you were going to win something now, and you said this and that," and it's all like. They still could win something this year. They could work. I mean, there's 2 cup competitions out there for them, but I think it's coming back to bite him. The fact that he's like dug this hole of positivity around himself and this belligerent style, which he's refusing to budge from.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's just I just thought that one on the weekend after where he bit a couple of times, and even since he's done it a few times since, like about where he came out again and backed it and saying, "No, it is a fact. I was just stating a fact." It's like, come on, man, read the room a little bit.
Yeah, I think if your vibe is like I'm just like a cheery chap, then you kind of going into a press conference. I mean, I don't blame anyone for biting. I would too, but like you probably need to go into the press conference and be like, right, okay, this is an acting like experience. And I need to be who I always am and just come out and like be cheerful.
Yeah.
Whereas like someone like Arteta has a benefit from like Arteta, I don't think is ever very pleasant.
He's always been quite.
He's always quite like
cutthroat,
tough, and like not jovial at all, and intense. And so exactly. And so when they're like that, whether things are good or bad, everyone's like, he's kind of always an arsehole.
Yeah.
Whereas like when Ange comes out and they're like, we thought you were our mate, Big Ange. Then I guess it makes it look like things are falling apart.
Yeah.
And the Spurs fan base, like I don't know if they're more susceptible to this than other fan bases, but it felt like in the course of like 2 weeks, the fan base has gone bananas. Like
I just wanted to bring that up.
It's really, and the Johnson stuff. Like, look, I don't think Johnson is very good. Like, I don't think he's like the problem for Spurs at all. But yeah, I don't think he's very good. But then after the game, I just saw people going absolutely bananas about Johnson. And I thought, well, this is how it always goes. It's like, there's this one problem. There's this one like issue, one rotten egg, one like player who's not good enough. And that's the thing. And if we solve that, then that will fix everything. And it's just like, there are a bunch of different factors here. And Spurs will probably be fine. Could easily win a cup.
See what happens.
But also, they didn't win a cup under Pochettino when they were legitimately amazing. I don't know, like it happens.
And they've tried the other routes. They've tried the other routes of getting a Jose and a Conte, these like mentality guys who, for a year and a half, they are so cutthroat, but it might work. And I mean, they sacked Mourinho just before he had a chance of the final, which he obviously then claims to say that he won. But no, it is weird. I think the Spurs fan base, the turn so quickly on Ange recently actually is quite shocking, considering I think like. They've played some of the best they've played since probably Pochettino days. And I think if you look at it over the past year and a bit since he's been there, things are probably quite positive overall. They'll be interested to hear your thoughts, guys. So please get in the comments below. Let's move on to another team then. Everton. Someone who I've mentioned it before in our predictions, we were kind of slightly positive about. And I still do stand by the fact that like, they have improved in certain areas. Like going forward and scoring goals doesn't seem to be the issue anymore. It's defensively.
I sort of think they'll be okay.
I do as well.
There are so many bad teams in the league this season. Like Leicester are dreadful. Ipswich are dreadful. Southampton are so bad. I actually can't believe it. Wolves are dreadful. Like I do think Everton will be better than all those teams. I just think Dyche will get. If the defense is the problem,
which it wasn't last year,
then Dyche is a good manager to have.
Yeah.
Like when the attack is a problem, I'm like, how is Sean Dyche going to solve this? But when the defense is an issue, I do think over time he'll just coach it up. Like he lost such a huge defensive presence in midfield last season, like a guy who covered so much ground for them. A bunch of his guys are incredibly old and getting older, and he has played a part in like re-upping, young and using Coleman and all these kind of people. But they've got O'Brien to come in. The centre backs, I actually think, are pretty decent.
Piling on Michael Keane at the moment.
He is having a stinker.
Yeah, but that doesn't. He's not
O'Brien
a bad player. Like a good Everton is probably still going to include him.
They've not really like featured O'Brien, who they brought in the summer.
Sure,
and like he had a great year. He had a good year last year. And so,
but centre back isn't a position where you just chuck someone in.
Sure, but they've conceded the most goals in the league with 13, and like the way they're throwing away some of the games is what I think what can be a big concern.
They have been 2-0 up in 2 games. Like, it's
but
not
now
as
back
if they
to
are
back
getting smashed.
But back to back, do you not think it's worrying to like back to back go 2-0 up and lose 3-2?
And they lost to Southampton in the cup.
But what's your analysis? But like, what is your analysis there? Like, I agree that is bad. That looks bad. That's bad for morale. But like, do we therefore assume that like every game they're gonna go, every time they get a lead they're gonna give it up? Like, I just don't think that's how it works.
No,
like,
but I think
like,
even
they need to learn to defend better as a side, and when teams kind of like start to build the pressure on them, it looks like they don't really have a way out. Like these are issues, and the defense needs to be drilled better. Sure, the midfield especially.
Yeah,
but like, I don't know. I guess it's just kind of like, these two results back to back look bad, but I don't think they really tell us very much about like Everton as a club.
No, I mean, I actually do. Like, I've kind of said on videos before that I'm a little bit more positive than maybe other people were. Like, I saw that Brighton game, first game of the season, and said that like first half I thought Everton were actually pretty good and were unlucky not to score a couple of goals. Spurs, they were awful. A couple of errors at the back. Pickford's had like a bit of a shaky start to the season. Obviously, the John Duran goal's incredible. But then he also had the error against Spurs as well to concede the second one so quickly. And then Bournemouth, like, I just wonder if there's also an element now where it starts playing on their minds just very quickly how they're conceding such easy goals. And even as a defence, like when you have this, say they go to, whenever they take a lead now, there must be a concerning thing in their head going, okay, we can't let this slip. And then the club gets back from just an error. Like even the goal that Watkins scored for Villa against Everton, it's just like Jack Harrison is doing work to get back and defend, makes a mistake, plays it into the box for Watkins and puts it in. And I do wonder now if that kind of element might start to play in their minds, but it is still super, super early. But what I will say is actually going forward, they have seemed to like figure out, even against Aston Villa, Watkins could have got another, Dominic Calvert-Lewin could have got another 2 goals. And when we were sitting here at the start of the season thinking, look, defensively they're going to probably be okay considering how they did last season, the attack is the issue. It's crazy to now sit here now and it's gone the complete other way, because I genuinely thought the attack was going to be another problem, but Ndiaye looks to be pretty good. McNeil's started the season fantastic. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is looking to get back to his best. Better, there's a lot more positives going forward.
You've got Lindstrom to come in.
Lindstrom to come in. It is that defensive issue.
They have had a tough run of fixtures. Like to play Brighton, Villa, and Spurs at the beginning of the season is rough. Like realistically, going to this
Bournemouth's
campaign,
also not an easy game.
Sure, yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, all of these fixtures have been like against minimum upper mid-table sides, and I think if you said to Everton before the season, like honestly, they would say like maybe we can like
snatch a draw.
Maybe we can get some points out of Bournemouth and Brighton, but like realistically, best case would be maybe winning one, drawing another. Yeah. Like we're not going to get results in those games, but they should be able to. If they start losing to like Wolves and like Leicester,
Southampton. I mean, they drew to Southampton in the cup, but maybe it's slightly different.
Then I will be really worried about them.
I actually think Everton's all they have to do this season is survive.
Yes, exactly.
All they have to do is survive, get new owners, and start next season in their brand new stadium.
Yeah.
Get Textor in and whatever they're trying to do. That is a successful season for Everton, and it almost doesn't matter how it happens. Like I know we were talking about them being a top 10 team potentially this year. Doesn't even matter. They just need to survive, be secure, and be able to build next year with new owners, an actual plan in a new stadium, base level for them.
Didn't they start? I'm trying to think. Didn't they start like this last season?
I mean, yeah, they had a difficult time, but I mean, look at Bournemouth last year under Iraola. They had a horrible start to the season.
Yeah, true.
And everyone
was
like, "Oh no, trust in it," and you can see by Dyche that it's fine. Like he's a good manager, and I hate people that don't think Sean Dyche is a good manager. I really don't think understand like
what football can be.
Yeah, is exactly. So yes, they've said they're going to put their faith in him. Losing to Southampton in the League Cup is just another kind of like body blow, which I don't think they really needed. My worry is this squad has been on the back foot for so long now. Is that fatigue going to like just build into them? Because there's a lot of these players are not used to being on the back foot as often as they have been.
Yeah.
And at what point can you just rely on Pickford to turn up for like 3 months of the year to just grow morale? That's where I worry about. That's why Dyche is perfect.
That first win for them is going to be will be huge. Like obviously they play this weekend. Leicester. They play Leicester this weekend,
Okay.
which is a huge game. Leicester, Palace, Newcastle, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton.
Yeah,
so they
that's a
do
good
have
one.
some
There's
winnable
loads of
fixtures
winnable
there now.
fixtures in there.
And like that first win, I think, could be like a huge morale thing for them and boost not just to the squad, but like the fan base. Like Jesus Christ, some of the like videos and toxicity I've seen there. And I saw the video going around this week of an Everton fan. Someone said we should bring in Will Still. He had no idea who he was. Okay, then that is Everton's big issue spoken about. Manchester United, the team that we have spoken about so many times about having issues over the last few years. They beat Southampton on the weekend. They also won their cup game as well, like 7-8-0, I think, in the end.
Yeah, watch that. Watch that game.
But for the at least half an hour of that Southampton game, it looked like things weren't going to be very positive. It looked like they weren't going to be getting 3 points until Southampton got a penalty, and obviously it was saved, and Man United went on to win that game. What is Manchester United's biggest issue so far this season, Pat?
Boy. Honestly, I really don't know where to start with that. Like, I mean, it still just feels like the team's spacing is completely off. Nobody really knows where they're meant to be. Like, obviously, Casemiro cannot defend in space anymore at all. Like, he's just literally not capable of it.
Still not played a guard, have they? Yet?
It's so it's so easy to get past Casemiro. I mean, I do think they will improve just from like the players coming in and settling. So like Zirkzee has had a pretty good start. Yeah. Mazraoui, immediate starter. De Ligt,
decent,
great. Like, and they got a nice set piece goal off De Ligt. If they improve their set pieces, that's quite a considerable edge that they can get. Look, I mean, they decided to kind of commit to Ten Hag, so it's kind of weird to say, like, I do think the manager's a problem, but I do think that the manager...
It's a problem.
I do think the manager is not, like, running them out in a way that makes sense. Like, they don't press very coherently. Like, it feels like there's always space that you can find to pass between the lines. That Southampton game, look, a win on the road for United is great because they were horrific on the road last season. Horrific. They were, like, 14th, 15th in the league on the road. And Southampton didn't have a shot after the penalty. That was their last shot of the game. But I didn't really look at it and think this is United being good. I looked at it and thought this is Southampton took like 5 shots at home.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, United had 10 shots on target in that match. They did that twice last season, both times against relegation candidates, relegation teams, and ultimately, and both of them at home. So maybe there's a positive sign there, but like quite honestly, when I look at them, I think nobody knows where they're meant to stand. Nobody knows where their teammates are going to be to receive. It's far too easy to catch these guys out. And somebody like Casemiro at this point, I'm just like, you are just cooked. Like, I'm sorry, but you cannot cover the ground you need to cover anymore. It's far too easy to run past you. And it results in the defenders having to make challenges, which is something you don't want, or people picking up yellows. I think the personnel now are actually pretty decent at United. Mm-hmm. Do they hold a candle to like Liverpool, Arsenal, even Spurs? Like maybe they're at the Spurs level. Like I guess they do have some really good players, but like I don't really think there's much to choose between those squads, to be honest with you. Why do they look like they've only just met each other? and I just find it hard not to get stuck on this manager cannot get them doing what they ought to be doing.
Yeah. I think when you are just about finding your feet against Southampton, who do feel like they will be going down this year, unless a miracle happens.
They'll probably sat.
And obviously performing pretty well against League One opposition. I think he's starting to possibly show the standards there. Like Henry, at the moment, what kind of feeling do you have? And there are people at home. I've seen the comments already where they go, "We always bash United. We always bash United." United aren't good, man.
Everyone's a hater. Like, oh, people are so negative. It's just like our job is not to like make you feel nice and good about yourself. Like we're just saying our honest opinions. And like if it's critical of United, have you considered that that's because United are dog shit and like people aren't doing their jobs very well there? There's always this attitude of just like you're just a hater. You always say negative things about us. Like it happens with everything. They're like you're always positive about Arsenal or Fulham, but you're always negative about United. It's just like, well, come to me when United do something well.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I will praise them.
I actually, on a positive note, I did watch that game against Barnsley, and yes, I'm not going to read into it too much, but Rashford scored some amazing goals.
He scored a good goal against Southampton.
I think they do have some great attacking personnel on that side. I think Garnacho
Garnacho's
is a brilliant player. I think
So good.
Ahmad, I'm really excited for him this year. They have, like Xerxes, you're right. We haven't even seen Højlund back to this season. They have great personnel going forward. Bruno as well. People love to hate him. At the end of the day, he's really good.
Yeah, really good player.
What Pat is so right about is, yes, the disjointedness in midfield. They almost just have to rely on those attacking players and maybe sacrifice one of them and put another body in that midfield to shore up that line in front of the defence, and just trust in the system, trust in the players they have to be able to deliver results the other end. Like, they've got good fullbacks that are able to bomb forward and get involved in the game now too. And if they can get Rashford back to something close to his best, then you've got a 20 goal a season striker there.
Big if though with Rashford.
Yeah, I know it's a big if.
I sometimes wonder, because like for instance, Garnacho was on the bench. Supposedly it was tactical, whatever it was for Southampton. And I think with a player like one thing that Garnacho does offer you, if he comes off the bench, he's so good off the bench. He is a great impact player. But I think he's a great starter as well. Whereas Rashford sometimes, if he's not on it, oh god,
I agree with you. I know, and it's a big old question mark. But I do think that Ten Hag just has to eat humble pie a little bit, put another player in that midfield and trust in the great attacking talent that he's got to unlock oppositions.
Okay, interesting. I mean, it's also...
Agreed.
It'll be interesting to see when Agate plays and if maybe that kind of fixes things a little bit.
I think that will help a lot.
I think he almost... It's impossible. He almost has to try and follow the Ancelotti mould of... He doesn't like... Tactically, you don't see loads coming out of Real Madrid, but he just knows that...
Put the best players in the right positions and make it work.
Well, or our defense is bad. So you sacrifice an attacker for a defender. Sometimes, I'm not saying it is as simple as that, but you have a defensive midfielder who cannot run and cover space, and he's playing with Kobe Mainu, who's been trying to put a shift in defensively this season, but is not a defensive midfielder and is not going to be a defensive midfielder. And you don't want to try and develop him into one because that's going to take away from the things he's actually good at.
Really good at.
Yeah. If you put Ugarte in there, then at least there's a guy there who wants to contest the ball all over the centre of the park. And then you've got really fast attackers. And Ugarte doesn't need to be the greatest passer in the world because the aim is get the ball and give it to Mainu, Fernandes, or get it out wide.
Yeah.
And that's honestly enough. They need a relatively simple plan. But I do look at Spurs and I think people criticise Spurs, but I at least see what Spurs are trying to do, and you can see it on the pitch and you can see it in the data.
Yeah.
They don't allow a lot of touches in their box. They get a ton in their opposition's box. They do get shots. Their forwards all have relatively high expected goal numbers. Even the crappy ones like Brennan Johnson, last season, have really good expected goal numbers and a bunch of goal involvement. So did Timo Werner in his limited minutes. They basically said this is the style we're going to build towards. And I think United probably just need to look at the personnel they have and say, what is the way to maximise what we've got here? And just do that rather than expecting they're going to be the sort of complete package now. Yeah. They can't do it. They're not that good.
I do slightly worry as well, just looking at their fixture list here for United, ignoring the Europa League games where they played Twente and Porto. They've got, Porto's not an easy game either. They've got a few banana skins here. Palace, Spurs, Villa, Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea are the next 6 Premier League games.
Well, the next 5 are tough, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's all over the place. Yeah, those are games they could... honestly, they could easily win them. If Ten Hag came out and said, you know what, I've actually got quite quick defenders now, and if I put Ugarte in there, I've got a bit more cover. Well, what we are going to do is play a much higher line, and we're going to try and win games 4-3. Maybe that would be better. Maybe that would be better than this because they can't control matches and they can't defend in a deep or mid block.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, sometimes with the talent you've got, you need to sort of do the Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool thing where you're
we'll outscore
we've got great attackers and we'll just outscore you. Because probably with their attackers, if they went toe to toe end to end game with Chelsea or with Villa, I think they've got the talent to potentially beat them, but certainly to match up to them. So I don't know.
Okay, well, that is Manchester United ticked off the list. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's move on to, you mentioned them earlier, Pat, and we kind of mentioned there briefly with Manchester United. Southampton. who are currently third in the Premier League for average possession, only behind City and Spurs.
Yeah, more passes per game than like Barcelona.
But it is what we kind of thought about when they were first coming up, and we did say this in the predictions. Like they want to play this kind of football, which is, I guess definitely brave, but also maybe a little bit silly as well, right?
Well, not only do they want to play a certain style of football, they've basically got rid of the entire squad that were playing it last season because they made so many signings this term that a lot of them towards the end of the window. It's not like you can just slot these guys in and say, right, just knock the ball around relentlessly. We're going to do that against the best teams, and you're all meant to gel with each other and know exactly what you're doing. That takes a lot of time. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have used the money to upgrade the squad. I think some of the signings they've made are actually really smart. But they are. If he's not going to encourage the team to get rid of the ball when they should, then they're going to be in deep trouble. Like, you have to be slightly pragmatic about this. And I know Vincent Kompany's got a job at Bayern Munich off the bat of doing exactly the same thing. But Russell Martin's not going to get that job.
Yeah, it's very different.
By virtue of who he is. Yeah. He's not going to get that. And I don't think people are going to be as kind to this Southampton side because no one really cared about them when they were in the Championship because no one really watches them because it's... And... they're just in a really difficult spot at the moment. Like Ben Brereton Diaz hasn't really been effective since he's come in there.
Weird decision as well. Like even in the United game to give it, was it Arch that took the penalty?
You're
having
so
never
right.
taken a penalty, and you do have Diaz there, who scored every penalty he's taken in his career.
Well, it makes me wonder what the personnel, what's going on behind the scenes. Like again, it's a lot of new guys who've all come into the same situation. They're all jostling for superiority, and like no one can really stand up against anyone else because they've been so bad this season. I like Russell Martin. I like what he's trying to do. I think will Southampton probably panic and fire him at some point? Probably. Yeah, but I mean, and that's someone's like pointless. I think if Southampton are going to go down, which it looks like, and I know it's really early days to say it, they should just stick with Russell Martin. They've essentially bought a load of players that would be pretty decent in the Championship, and they'd almost have to do that kind of up and down, bounce back effect. But I mean, Southampton's problem is an inability to be flexible tactically, an inability to just defend when they need to, and that's ultimately going to cost them. Because actually, I think going forward, they do show some interesting signs.
The Tyler Dibbling guy, who
he is so good.
Yeah, who played in the wing against Dallo, was really, really impressive. I think
he's skinned everybody he's come up against this season. Like he's quite big.
18 years
Dibbling.
old,
and he's big as well. I think he's going to be a serious problem actually. Like, and if you have like the right hand side being like Sugawara and Dibbling, like you've actually got quite an interesting setup there. But honestly, like their biggest problem is that they added talent in the summer, but not enough talent to stay up. They added enough talent to sort of turn over the team, but not enough that they are very clearly like chock-a-block with top tier players. So I don't know. They just don't. I don't really think they have the guys. Like they can get rid of Martin if they want, and they were dreadful against United. Dreadful, and they've been dreadful so far this season. But I don't really know how possible it is to keep them up with the players they've got.
But even the like you're looking here into the squad that played against Manchester United, like they're bringing on Adam Lallana nowadays, which isn't fantastic. I mean,
the Chelsea loanee is pretty good in midfield.
Leslie Chukwu, he's played pretty well actually. He played very well against Everton from the highlights that I saw. But I don't know, even Ben Brereton Diaz, like I've always...
I don't get that one.
Yeah, I've always kind of felt... We saw him, he was like at Sheffield United, and he did manage to get a couple of goals, but it never felt like he was ever really impacting the game too often. So they took the risk on him. Obviously, they brought back Flynn Down to a fantastic season for them last year. And he's...
I think he's a good Championship player, in all honesty.
He's been okay, but obviously West Ham in the end, he never worked out at West Ham in the end. They were willing to move him on. Cameron Archer, I do like Cameron Archer, but it does feel quite a big role to have to lead that Southampton front line in a position where they obviously need to make sure bangs for them to stay up in the league. So yeah, there we have it with Southampton.
Someone moaned the other day that we didn't give Southampton enough time. So there you go. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that breakdown. What's wrong with your club? So.
I want to mention this one was interesting actually because I don't know. It feels wrong to say them because I don't think they've started the season badly at all. But they have had a bump in the road. This is Liverpool we're talking about here against Nottingham Forest, and more specifically. Did we, and it's more so I could bring up Nottingham Forest, did we underestimate Nottingham Forest?
Yeah.
I think so.
Forest are good.
Yeah, I'd like to apologise to Forest fans out there.
Well, I don't know. We were quite positive about a lot of their signings, and
I
to be honest,
I had them to go down. Can't remember.
but they've added a ton of talent over the last few years, and they've added too much. You know, like they've often like signed 2 or 3 guys for a position
and then sold them as that
Yeah,
next
exactly.
summer. Yeah,
But when you bring in a manager like Nuno and you give him good players to work with, especially in a game away at Anfield, that is the kind of game Nuno likes.
Yeah.
Like, Nuno's going to drill your defence pretty well, and they've got pretty good personnel. And their attackers can create something in space. Like, they've got interesting attackers,
great
who
attackers.
can all run, are all reasonably creative, are all a decent goal threat. Now, I mean, in that game, they still created basically nothing. I think they had like 0.4 XG or something, though they really limited Liverpool.
Yeah.
So it was a great defensive performance, but I would say it was a performance that, like, if it had come out with a draw, you'd have said that's a fair result.
Mario and Milenkovic is quite a fun centre-back
Milenkovic's good
partnership.
signing.
It is.
Great signing.
Quite no nonsense, and I really rate it.
Callum
Milenkovic is
Hudson-Odoi
massive.
also like. It's great to see him kind of back at his best. Kind of looks like he's got way past that not ACL, the Achilles injury that he had at Chelsea, and he's just doing that. Like, he is doing that exact finish he's been doing since the academy days at Chelsea, and it's go make it look like you're going to go down the left, cut in onto your right foot, whip it. He's got such a good whip shot that looks like almost it's like defying gravity with the way it bends into the other side of the corner. And it's so I always think sometimes when like a player who, like, Iron Robin did it for years, and these guys who are just like, you know what they're going to do, but you can't stop it. And that's kind of where like Hudson-Odoi's been so far. Like, even last season, he was doing that exact same goal several times. And then on the other wing, you've got Elanga, who's fantastic. You have Morgan Gibson-White just behind them as well, linking them all up. I think it's going forward. They've got, I mean, all over the pitch. They've just got some great
I
assets.
was even watching the Dortmund highlights yesterday, getting the second goal. And you watch slow motion, the defender completely get fooled falls to his left hand side when Gittins is going to the right hand side. I sort of think it was so obvious that he was going to shoot on his right foot. Like, I don't understand how
I would
these
not want
wingers bamboozled defenders so much. But yeah, I think Elanga, this Jota, this guy they brought in from Portugal. Hudson-Odoi, they've got some flair players. And even
we only
Morgan,
on the bench at the
yeah,
moment.
Morgan Gibbs White behind them. Chrissy Wood. He's just you can't get him off the pitch. Can you? You just can't. You can never write him off.
So bad.
I quite like him as a spearhead, linking all those guys together. They've got sort of quietly Forest, and I would be the first to admit that I sort of wrote them off quietly. They put a good squad together, but to focus on Liverpool, I don't think. Look, yes, they've lost, but they've actually done pretty well in every other game. They absolutely dominated AC Milan. Like, AC Milan, Fonseca was a shocking signing, but as a manager, but Liverpool was so good against AC Milan. Salah's looking amazing. I have no issues with Liverpool whatsoever. They could have very easily walked away with a point against Forest. That's fine. I think that is a freak result. I don't think that's going to happen.
Bump in the
loads.
road, like learning curve.
Yeah, not loads of teams aren't going to come to Anfield and do that.
Yeah.
It's Arne Slot's been brilliant. For a new manager going into Liverpool, following on one of their greatest in modern history, I think Slot's doing as well as he possibly can. So I have no issues with Liverpool.
I mean, Liverpool's next few games, Bournemouth will be an interesting match this weekend.
Bournemouth can't win a game. Bournemouth can't win a game.
True.
Everyone's like, "Oh, Bournemouth are so good." They're not winning.
Yeah, but they are making it
They were better than Chelsea.
tough, man.
They should have
Yeah.
beaten
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah, but
Because they don't have a good striker.
Yeah, and Evan Nilsson questions at the moment.
Great chances. They'll be okay.
Bournemouth, Wolves, Palace, Chelsea in their next couple of Premier League games. They also face West Ham, Bologna as well in the cup competitions. Quick note as well, who we didn't mention about Nottingham Forest, Ola Aina. Fantastic player, obviously so two-footed as well. Can play either side of wing back. I think he's been brilliant.
Bit strong.
He has been. Mate, he's been really good. He's been,
The fact you
really good.
The fact
Chelsea,
you paused the podcast to
I just want to bring it back to Forest.
a good shout
Bring it
out.
back to Forest. What can I say?
They weren't even on the docket. We don't have a problem with Forest.
You know,
Like, what's the
very
biggest
true.
problem with Forest? That Zach
Nothing.
won't stop talking about.
Okay. Henry, I didn't have him here originally, and then when I texted you, you said you wanted to mention them. The boys in white.
Yeah.
Fulham. What's their biggest problem?
Well, our biggest problem is it turns out our previous owner is now an alleged horrible man. So, so I hope we stop singing that song about him immediately. Beyond that, Fulham. When we sold Jay Stansfield, obviously you can't say no to that kind of money from a
money
League
was
One
crazy.
club. It's crazy money. I saw him on Monday. I was up at the game, Birmingham Wrexham, which is pretty mental. Stansfield looks brilliant. I'm not saying that he would have been the starting figure, but to go into the whole campaign with Muniz and Jimenez as your strikers, I think is just baffling. And we've got great personnel behind them. Smith Rowe, I like the Reece Nelson addition. But,
he's looked really bright.
Shock horror, Muniz is not a 20-goal-a-season striker and has already been benched now for Jimenez, who, unbelievably, is not even a 10-goal-a-season striker. So I just can't believe I don't even know if Carlos Vinicius is on our books anymore. Like any one of them.
I don't think he is anymore, no.
My point is, for all the great work Fulham did the transfer window, a lot of people putting it in like one of the top 3 windows across the Premier League. For all the great work, we just don't have a consistent striker at the spearhead of that attack. And like Muniz, don't get me wrong, he's got in some good positions, but he should have buried a few chances already this season with his head. It's just annoying because like that West Ham game at the weekend is just indicative of how I feel like Fulham are going to be this season.
You should have battered them.
Really positive. Lots of chances against West Ham, like a team that are meant to be better than us on paper. We look comfortably better than them, in my opinion. But then we just switch off and concede a goal at the end. And I'm not like, that is just how I feel the season is going to go. It's going to be another nearly campaign for Fulham to see how far they can get up the table. I hope if by January we are struggling, we take a serious look at the forward line and just get someone in. Yeah. Just get someone good in.
Get a loan.
We can't just give Muniz the number 9 shirt and say, you're our striker now. He was crap at Middlesbrough when he was on loan there. He was crap at Fulham before that. Yes, he had a great period. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one who really enjoyed that. But you can't just bank on that for the rest of the campaign. Because it just pisses me off, man. If you're going to spend all that money on Smith Rowe and break your transfer fee, if you're going to get players like Reece Nelson in, and we've got good players. If we're going to spend 30 million on Jakob Anderson and put him on 130 grand a week or whatever,
have someone
get a good striker.
Spearheading the
get
attack.
a good striker. It's the most important position.
I always enjoy when we talk about Fulham because Henry kind of then goes back into fan mode, and really lets it like like a Fulham fan TV.
It's just mental. Like we've got one of the best goalkeepers in the league. Yeah. We've got some fun centre backs.
You've got some great players, but you are right. Yeah, you're spearheaded by a poor.
I like Muniz. I actually like Muniz, and Muniz is 23. And
I don't care how old he is.
But playing, you can invest. It's much better to play him than to play Jimenez because Jimenez is crap and it's not going to get better.
No, I agree with
Muniz is 23 and actually could be good.
Then hold on.
He could end up being. I agree with that. Like my issue is just that like under no circumstances would I play Jimenez at this point. Like, I just don't think he gives you anything. Whereas like I actually think like when you've got a 23-year-old who at least has put up shots in the Premier League, like just at least play that guy because especially now. With so much more threat around him, it should be easier for him to get both chances and space, right? You know, like now you've got Nelson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, and Traore all kind of like approaching the edge of the box. Teams can't just like send 3 guys to cover your centre forward. So you would hope that would improve things. Yeah. I don't know. I still think they'll be okay. And I thought it was a really but I still think like Muniz will actually be okay. I just think that like having. Like Raul Jimenez is like having nobody there, in my opinion. Like that's like having empty roster space. But West Ham stink right now. West Ham were dreadful at the weekend. Fulham were all over them the entire game. Reece Nelson when he came on was unplayable. Or at least he was unplayable for West Ham. Like if they can put on those performances, they will actually have a good season. But it does feel weird that like defensive midfield and centre forward, which in my opinion,
2 number ones probably,
arguably the 2 most important positions, are the positions where they are light.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and now we lost to Preston on a penalty shootout, and it's just the whole point of the cups is that two seasons ago we got to the quarterfinal of the FA Cup and then blew it against Man United in that great implosion. Last year we got to the semi-final of the League Cup. Marco Silva said again this year we're going after the cup competitions because we believe that we're a good cup team. And we've gone and lost to Preston, and we played a pretty good side, I should add. Oh man, I love the fact I don't support a big winning team, and I love the fact that we have the little moments in cup runs where I get excited, but sometimes I just think, kill me, please. Give me something.
Oh, bless you, mate. Bless you. Well, if you are listing Fulham, your January window sounds like you need to be bringing in a striker.
If the bloke that Wolves bought from Fluminense Andre, whatever he's called.
Yeah,
if he
DM.
turns out to be really good, I'm going to flip my shit.
You know who does seem really good for them? Strad Larson, who they've got on loan. It seems like a very good
I'm not
striker.
talking about him, Zach. I don't care about him. Yeah.
We'll see about Andre. We'll see about Andre. Okay, let's move
Should
on
have bought
to...
Nketiah. Should have got another ex-Arsenal one.
Yeah, you know what?
Who also actually looks really
It's
good.
true. Okay, let's move on from Fulham before
like a
Henry
hole
cries on camera. Crystal Palace, I want to mention as a team.
Crap.
So far,
Crap.
I think they started the season poorly. They've not won a game yet. 2 draws, one against Chelsea, one also against Leicester City, and then 2 losses, one against West Ham, and the other was against Brentford on the first day of the season. They just beat QPR this Tuesday and are facing Manchester United on the weekend. What do we think their biggest issues at the moment? Because it seems like the manager Glasner can't seem to quite make up his mind on what his set midfield is. Some days it seems like Decore is starting on the bench and it's a midfield of Wharton and the guy Hughes. Yep, I was going to call him the blonde guy. The name escaped me. Then he played Decore and Wharton, but then subbed on Hughes eventually. It seems like he can't quite make up his mind yet in terms of that midfield. And they have maybe had a few defensive errors, like Gehi obviously having a bit of a blunder on the weekend. What do we think about Palace?
I mean, firstly, they were unlucky at the weekend, like Fulham were. Like, they were clearly the better side. They should have won that game. Well, actually, I don't know. That's not really true. I suppose they were better, but it was actually quite even, I guess, until the penalty.
Yeah.
Unexpected goals. They ended up kind of running away with it. So actually, maybe they put themselves in a position to kind of get like footballed in that sense. But I think. I don't want to really go after Will Hughes, but I do think Will Hughes is a bit of a problem. I like Wharton.
He's a good player.
He's not a good player.
They subbed him on and they were better at the weekend.
But that's not the issue.
They subbed him off though against Chelsea. And they were better without him.
The issue is that when there's not enough defensive presence in that midfield.
Yeah.
So
Decore.
So when you've got Wharton's a really good passer, but Wharton is not much of a defender.
Yeah.
Hughes is not much of a passer or a defender. He's very willing to show for the ball, but you need Decore or even Kamada, who actually played that role more like Lazio. You need somebody to take charge of that midfield
Is that not Decore?
defensively.
Where's
It
Lerma?
should be
Where's
Decore.
Lerma
It
gone?
should be Decore.
Jefferson Lerma, he was there, wasn't he?
God, is he still there?
Didn't
I'll have a
he
look.
leave?
But yes, Decore should be the guy, right?
Sure, but he was in and out for quite a while last season, right? How much did he
He's
play?
at Palace still. He's at Palace.
Okay,
Still.
well, I don't like Jefferson Lerma either, but I do. But look, it's going to take a little while for them to gel defensively anyway because of the loss of Anderson, which is a big loss. But to me, I would say you can't play Hughes and Wharton. And if I'm going to play one of them, I'm obviously going to play Wharton. So I would probably be looking more at I think it would be interesting if, for example, they went for some kind of diamond midfield with Decore, Kamada, Wharton, and then at the tip of it, Olise behind.
Not Olise.
Eze behind Mateta and Nketiah.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to me.
I mean,
I think that would be
you
kind
got
of
to
fun.
start Mateta.
I said Mateta.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're playing this three at the back formation at the moment as well, which is interesting.
Okay.
That's why they're 2 midfielders they can't quite work out on. And as I said, against Chelsea, Will Hughes was not good, and they had to bring him off and bring Decore on. They became so much better. But then when they started the game with Decore and Wharton, they took off Decore and brought Hughes on. They ended up looking better. This was
Their starting lineup is really fun.
Klein.
Yeah, that's right.
They love
centre-back,
Klein's been all right. They love Klein.
They shouldn't. He's crap.
Well,
He's been crap 4 years. And also Gay, the whole thing that made Gay so valuable was that Gay, even though he's right-footed, was playing left centre-back. And now, with Anderson gone, what's actually happened is this chain of kind of destabilisation.
Yeah.
So it's so if you just put one person in for Anderson, then that area is unstable, right?
Yeah.
As in your right centre back slot is unstable. But if Anderson goes and then you move somebody else over and you change the formation and suddenly, this guy doesn't fit, so we bring in somebody else there, then actually through one player being lost, you've destabilised the entire team. Yeah. And that to me is a bit of an issue. I think Glasner's a good manager, so I don't worry too much about them. And they have some really great talent, so they'll be fine. I think Nketiah is going to be great for them. I think Mateta is really good for them. Eze's good. Like, I think having Doucouré just play there all the time would be great.
I should add, have Palace ever put a whole good season together in the Premier League?
Yeah, there's always
they just got to January and then become amazing.
Unreal,
It is just, it's almost embedded in how Palace are at this point. That they just are slow starters.
It's fun watching Nketiah join that kind of, because obviously Nketiah is playing in the position of Elise's position, and they are very two different players. But the way he's operating in it is really, really interesting, and kind of like the way he'll join Mateta in this kind of front two striker, but then also drift out to the right wing and happily kind of carry the ball when forward. It is really, really good to see him kind of getting some minutes. And even, as well, who I like, Munez, the right wing back. He's also a decent player as well. That is Palace spoken about, ticked off the list. I actually want to go a little bit international. And just mention, firstly, AC Milan, who obviously struggling in Serie A. We saw them play Liverpool on the weekend. Midweek in the Champions League.
I'll tell you what's wrong with them. Okay.
I wonder.
Well, it is Fonseca. He was not good when he was managing in Italy by the end. He could not coach defence. He then went to Lille, and I think he took a step down and joined a club with less heat on him.
He was pretty good.
And, pardon?
He was okay.
No, he was good. I'm not denying that he was good at Lille, but I think sometimes you've got to know your level. And I just think AC Milan, they're going to bring in Terzic. That's what they're saying this morning.
Oh my God.
Even Christian Pulisic coming out and saying they need a coach to take him to the next level is such an odd thing to say.
Did he say that?
Yeah, did you not
after Liverpool?
Did you not see that interview of Thierry Henry? That whole thing?
No, I only saw them talking to him about the internationals, about Poch coming. I think that was about Poch.
Or was that about Poch?
I thought that's about Poch.
It would be mad if he came out after a game they lost and said, we just need a better manager.
I think that was about Poch. Sorry. Okay.
Right off the list. Anyway,
I was going to say.
Point remains, he's under pressure. They started really well, but then their only tactic was get it to Leao and hope Leao can drive forward. They need to get Leao in better spaces. I think their midfield, Reinders I'm not convinced about. Reinders isn't necessarily good enough in midfield there. I think they've just... If you compare them to Inter, and even if you compare them a little bit to Juventus, I think they're just quite average, AC Milan. I don't get that excited when I watch them play football, and that's just the point. Like, they bought in the Salzburg Serbian Pavlovic, useless. I mean, honestly, like, isolated, dreadful, and they're playing a back four. Liverpool scored 2 goals by just lumping the ball next to the goalkeeper.
Set pieces.
They've got no physicality.
The Van Dijk goal, I actually I watched it like 10 times trying to work out what had happened, and at the end of it, I was still like, I don't know. They just let him sort of nod it in.
Football is going towards just having absolute giants across the side, and AC Milan seems to have forgotten about it. They
got quite big guys.
They bought in Pavlovic, but the problem with Pavlovic is he can't use his feet, so you're hamstrung. So, I mean,
watching them try and play out the back against Liverpool, like, they obviously had this plan to play out at the back, and then as soon as they were pressed, or as soon as somebody took a slightly bad touch, they were in so much trouble that you were like, this is a matter of time until Liverpool get a shot. And it was, honestly, at one stage, I was like, this has got more chance of ending like 6-1 to Liverpool than it does of ending in a draw or a win for Milan.
Mike Manuel's injured as well now, which is a
and they brought on this
issue.
pubescent goalkeeper. Did you see that? I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was like they got Courtois and made him younger and like squeezed him. I mean, it was just insane.
When Fonseca came in, it's one of those things where, like, when Fonseca turns up at a club, sometimes I hear Fonseca's name and I think, oh, I like Fonseca, and then I see he's at like AC Milan. I'm like, well, I don't like him that much. You know, I'm like, I like him if like a 15th place Premier League club sacks their coach and thinks maybe we could get in Fonseca. I don't like him when a club that is in the Champions League and wants to compete for Serie A is like, who's going to take us to the next level?
But even like the thinking about bringing in like Emerson Royal was if you like within 2 games they've binned him off. He's on the bench now. Like,
well, while Kalulu went out on a loan with an obligation to Juventus.
I don't like, even Roma have just sacked De Rossi and brought in Ivan Juric, who's just done an average job at Torino. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, especially after they spent
Roma
they
a
spent
mess,
they spent a lot of money in the summer, brought in a bunch of players of De Rossi's guys, and after 4 games went, see you later, mate.
Can none of these guys get Tuchel or something like that? Are these big Italian clubs not attracted to one manager?
Done with I think Tuchel just wants to go to a place where he doesn't have to deal with a crazy hierarchy. And staying away from Italy is probably the best idea.
Look, he's come out and said a bunch of boneheaded stuff recently, and I think they're a disgraceful club with the people they've signed. But like Marseille getting De Zerbi. Why is that not a gettable manager for like a big Italian side? Like, I'd much rather.
Especially an Italian manager as well.
I like Marseille as a city. I think they've signed a couple of like straight up pieces of shit this summer. But like, if AC Milan come and say like, "Do you want to coach us?" and I'm De Zerbi, then I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. If Roma say, "Do you want to live in Rome and coach this club?" Like, we've just signed a bunch of weird ass players. Like, I don't know. I agree. Like, it just feels like the USA getting Pochettino.
Yeah.
Like, or it's like when Everton got Ancelotti. Like, sometimes you kind of think, if you ask, you might be surprised. Like Spurs getting Conte. If you ask, you may be surprised. If somebody's been sitting out there without a job for a while, who knows?
Tuchel's going to go to a crazy club, man.
Conte
and we're
got
gonna be like,
so
what?
desperate, he went to Napoli to work under De Laurentiis. It's the worst match made in the history, and yet it happens because he just wanted to manage a football club.
Yeah, that's why he went to Spurs. Like with Spurs, he was like, "No, I'm not going to come unless I can have this, 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 and this." And Spurs said, "Well, you can't have those things." And then, like, after Nuno was an absolute disaster, they went back to him, and they probably made some concessions. But also, Conte had just been sitting in his sitting room watching football on TV for like 2 months, driving his wife insane.
I could do this.
Yeah, can you imagine how much he must shout around the house? And like, then Spurs were like, "Do you want to come manage football again?" And you know that Conte was like, "Please, God, yeah. I will coach your uncoachable squad, like built by a lunatic, like because like I need to be like doing football." And it just feels like AC Milan and Roma have like, especially Milan. Like, they do have a status in world football that they are failing to exploit.
Without a doubt. And like Milan also have some like good players in that team. There are some really talented players there.
Fonseca has no upside as well. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you hire one of these managers who, like, he's not going to be the worst manager in the world, but you also know he's not going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could have applied that to Pioli, but still, like, he's not going to be amazing. In that situation, I honestly think you're better off going for somebody who's almost a complete unknown, who might be amazing.
Yeah.
Because, you need a bit of variance to win the league if you're Milan. Like, you're not the best team in the league. So you need a manager who, at worst, is going to be, like, subpar, but at best is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Like, that's something you have to do when you are not the richest team, the best equipped team, like, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, like, this is where, like, you go to Argentina, for example, which actually has like a really good track record of producing coaches. You're like, who's like the best young coach coming out of Argentina? Austria, Germany, like the places where there are these like 30-year-old coaches coming up, they have a really good coaching pipeline. That's where you go and you say, who is the guy who's coaching like an academy team at the moment, who everyone thinks is like the next person? We're going to offer him the Roma job. That's not crazy. Like, that's better than just like going and getting somebody who you're like,
well, Brighton have just done that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you just think there are these managers around like who, yes, they might be crap, but
football.
As we've seen, a guy who's like a known quantity can be crap, and you know that Paulo Fonseca is not going to win you the league. So given that you know that, why not do something more ambitious?
Just looking at who's available now: Potter, Tuchel, Xavi, Terzic.
Xavi's crap.
Oh, Xavi, I mean, yeah.
Potter for Roma would actually be... No, I'm serious. Like, the talent they've got...
Pulisic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we're looking at...
Roger Schmidt's
Okay,
available now.
Actually, no. If Roger Schmidt's available, Roger Schmidt will get your team running. They will be the fittest team in the league, and they will perform above their talent level because his teams always do for like 2-3 years, and then everyone dies. Like, but it's like... It's fun while it lasts.
Even Conceição, like he's left Porto. There's so many better options than even Jurgen.
Where did his son go?
Oh, I'm just...
Rudy Garcia, I think, is one of my most hated managers in world football.
Yeah, he's awful.
Where did who go?
I was going to say Constantine. Son go. Where did his son go?
He's gone to Juventus.
Francisco Conceição is at Juve.
Yeah.
Igor Tudor. He's an all right manager. These are all better than some of the people that are getting in.
Chris Hughton at AC Milan.
Who else have we got here? I mean, this is bleak.
Yeah, I mean.
No, but you did name off like 5 or 6
Sally.
guys there where you're like.
Sam Allardyce is listed on the first page of this as well. So,
Isn't
God.
Sarri meant to be going to Boca Juniors or something? Something like that.
Some power. No, I'll take it back. Anyway,
I will say there's a pretty horrible list.
Point remains.
There's at least 5 there.
McLeish, he can't still be listed as a manager. The point is,
They're like, we've got Shankly.
Milan's problem is they had a hissy fit with Maldini and got rid of him a year ago. They sort of ran out of Stephen Pioli and got rid of them. They just got Zlatan in and thought his big vibes will like help power the club.
He's already causing massive drama.
Yeah, he's an absolute doofus.
Yeah, so a moron.
And now they got in Fonseca, who's probably just getting whipped by Zlatan behind the scenes. And it's all falling apart because they play crap football and they've got an average midfield. So that is the problem with AC Milan, and I'm just fed up with them.
Well done. You know what? I was going to touch upon Real Madrid.
Don't need to. They're fine.
No, their problem is that all their attackers want
man.
to play on the left.
Yeah,
that's their problem.
Literally.
That's literally their problem. Like
Literally.
everybody wants to play in the same position. Everybody wants to do the same thing. They don't have any balance in the front line at the moment. They've also got like 2 centre backs. Like they've technically got 3, but obviously like one's still out injured. So they've got 3 centre backs for the whole season, and yet they sold Rafa Marin. Like these are their problems.
No,
however, they will be great by February, and they will be one of the contenders for the Champions League.
Once that attack starts really gelling, it's going to be.
Their problem is that Barcelona look amazing. That's their problem.
They do. Yeah, we spoke about that on the Champions League predictions video that went out on Wednesday. If you have not seen that already, please check that out. Really quickly, then a couple of quick fire questions before the end of the video. This one says there's a couple about Barclays men, but we did that last week. If Company succeeds as Bayern Munich manager, this comes from Ziman, does it completely flip the view on relegating fighting managers for the future?
Again, I kind of answered this earlier. Company has so much credit in the bank as who he is. And let's not pretend he was Bayern Munich's first choice either. He wasn't. He was like their 9th choice. Yes, but I still don't think we've seen Bayern Munich come up against a good side yet. Like Zagreb were horrible.
They've got Villa next, which is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, okay. That is going to be a really interesting test.
Yeah.
Can they break down one of the best coach teams by one of the best managers in the world? That is going to be a really big test for Company, because it's all well and good them blitzing these lesser teams in Germany and so far in Europe. And don't get me wrong, like when you've got the attacking talent he's got available, I actually really like it from Bayern's perspective, because I think they got fed up of the managers making excuses of the squad. You've got an unbelievable array of attacking talent. Yeah. Just get out there and go for it.
The game of the week, the game of the Champions League, when they just got bringing on Sane, I was like, goodness gracious.
But the thing is, like, what success for Bayern is really like, do they perform better than Leverkusen in the big matches? You know, like half the time, but Bayern will basically coach themselves to victory against the majority of the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is really bad at the moment, and the same is true of a bunch of these teams in the Champions League. So when they go away to Barcelona, which they have to do in the Champions League, when they go away to Villa, which they have to do in the Champions League, when they go away to Leverkusen, like, can Company out-coach a really smart manager in those situations? That's a question. So that'll be interesting, because the rest of the season, I think they'll beat up on basically everybody they come up against. I don't know if it will really like change the calculus. It always depends on who the manager is. Like, I think this one was just like, I think a lot of managers now know that Bayern behind the scenes is like a horrible place to be. And probably at this point as well, when a manager gets called about the Bayern job, they probably ring Tuchel and Nagelsmann and say like, should I do this? And those guys are like, not really. It's kind of like a shit show. Yeah. So I would look at the way they've treated managers and not be that interested, unless you're a manager who's relatively low down the pecking order, and then you're like, I would love to coach Bayern, of course. I don't care that they're going to like bitch me out like to the press all the time. I don't care that the players are going to try and get me sacked every 6 months. I don't really mind, like, because I get to be Bayern manager. This is great. Like, Company's been managing in Burnley. He's delighted.
You know what, Bob? When you watch a Bayern Munich game, they pan to their executive box, and you've got all those old stony faced like
old criminals
in those jackets with the little those like double buttons.
It's like when you watch
everyone on day release.
It's like when you watch documentaries about old Soviet like communist parties, and they're all there just quietly clapping in the stand, and you just know that if the leader puts a foot wrong, he's getting like done in. So I mean, am I allowed to say any of this? I don't know. But my point is, I get really like spooky vibes from the Bayern Munich back office.
They are all scumbags.
Also, when they like,
honestly, they are all scumbags.
When they talk to the press all the time as well, like it's so undermining. It's undermining, the word? Undermining, that's the one.
Even Oliver Kahn got done. You know?
Yeah, I mean Oliver Kahn. Yeah. Okay, one final one actually. We will talk about Barclays men just because me and Henry did it last time, Pat. Who is your prime Barclaysman?
So it's going to be someone who's like not that good.
Yeah. So it can't be like Thierry Henry, but it could be
What, you're just going to pick any player?
Jerome.
and just see-
Who's the Stoke forward? Why am I forgetting?
Cameron Jerome.
Cameron Jerome.
Oh, no, it is not Cameron Jerome. Who did I like? I really loved.
Like mine, for instance, was Chris Brunt.
I really loved Sylvain Distin.
Oh, yeah, played for a few teams.
He was class. I still think he's got the most outfield appearances for a foreign player in the Premier League. He's got like nearly 500.
It does sound about
But
right.
I always just used to think he was like a really classy defender and like really reliable. Actually, Everton had a bunch of those guys. Like Kevin Morales. Like these sorts of people, I had a lot of fondness for. Who else is there? Gabriel Oberton.
Oh, come off it.
He was dog shit.
Who's the Scottish guy that played for Everton up top? Not Duncan Ferguson. Steve
Fletcher.
No,
Naismith.
Naismith.
Yeah. So, but there are a bunch of those guys. Like Newcastle used to have them. Like obviously died a few years ago. But like Cheick Tiote, I love Cheick Tiote.
Yeah.
But all these guys were like not great, but super fun.
The Papi Cisse
Demba
Demba
Ba
Ba strike
era.
partnership,
God.
even with like peak Johan
was actually
Cabaye
amazing.
behind,
God.
that was so much
Cabaye is actually a really good shout for this. Cabaye was like,
Did he only play for Newcastle?
Crystal
Well, I don't
Palace
feel like
as
Palace as well. Yeah.
but he was like perfect, like poor man's like Payet.
Yeah.
Poor man's Arteta.
Do you remember, every now and then, Newcastle would just sign someone really fun out of League One. They just go in and spend 15 million on someone out of League One.
Florian
and they were
Thauvin,
always
who was-
so good.
Who's for
No,
one
Florian
season?
Thauvin
Yeah.
was dreadful there.
Yeah, but he was great elsewhere. Yeah. I mean, even you know what? More for my era because I wouldn't have watched him at Liverpool, but like,
Is Dempsey a Barclays man? Clint Dempsey?
I think so.
Okay, 'cause I love
was
Clint
gonna say I think he's probably a little bit above it, but Peter Crouch post Liverpool.
Yeah, Peter Crouch is definitely.
Post Liverpool, was doing some crazy things. Like goal against City for Stoke, where he takes it off the chest about 35 yards out and hits it past Joe Hart. So yes, there's a few of our Barclaysmen. We've brought it up again. Please leave yours in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Henry Hill, where can the people at home catch your stuff?
It's called Football Joe, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Oh, please go on the YouTube channel and subscribe to that. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers, which doesn't sound like much, but it was a big start.
That's so good, man. That's absolutely huge rise recently. Patrick Van Straten, yourself, where can they catch you?
There's my podcast, Unseen Incidents, which you can find on your favourite podcast app. You can find us on Patreon as well, where you can support us. I'm also on the Transfer Flow. You can sign up to our newsletter, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube. We put out a couple of episodes a week, also on your favourite podcast app. And then you can buy my wife's book, which is called This Immaculate Body in the UK and the Commonwealth. And it's called Creep, a Love Story in the US. It's out in February, so you can pre-order it. Henry's bought it. Some of you have bought it already. Thank you very much. But yeah. Buy my book.
Amazing. All of that is linked in the description below. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a good one. Bye.